How the heck are you guys? I am Fastidious, and welcome to my official guide for Mother of Crows. This is the newest Immortal Codex Boss in Watcher of Realms, and it is the hardest Immortal Codex Boss. This fight is crazy and, unfortunately, very hero dependent if you want to get a super duper high score. However, if you just want to perform pretty well, it's not as insane and hero dependent as you might think. There are a lot of options for a lot of the roles. But you might look at the ultimate leaderboard here and see every single team in the top 100 has iovar, and every team basically has iovar, Hex, Silas, Beelzebub, and then if they have Lady Alex, they have Lady Alex in there, and then there's one flex spot. If they don't have Lady Alex, then there's two flex spots, and those are taken up by crazy things like A5 bonded Honora, stuff like that. However, let's be honest, 99%, maybe more of the people watching this video right now are not going to get top 100. And frankly, yes, it will feel disappointing that you're not going to be able to get S or double S or triple S, depending on your account and your heroes, but there's absolutely nothing wrong with getting C or B plus or A plus. So in this guide, I want to take you through the absolute basics of the fight and really dumb down the tooltips for how the boss works and show it to you all in action because it's actually really, really confusing. I love the design of this fight. Unfortunately, I despise the implementation. I'm sure I'll talk about that later, but essentially there are so many little moments of RNG that can completely throw your run one way or another in a very good way or a very bad way, and that sucks. But once I dumb down exactly how the fight works and just make it clear as day, I really think you'll all have a really good grasp for it. And then at the end of this video, I am going to take you through every role. So if we look at my team over here, you see I ran, this is the epic team I'm going to show you in a second, but I ran iovar, Silas, Hex, Honora, Beelzebub, and Boreas. I'm going to give you the substitutions for all of those guys so you can sub them in. If you don't have really good endgame gear and really appropriate heroes for this, unfortunately, I think S plus or higher isn't going to really be in the cards for you, but you can still do really well. And honestly, the rewards are barely different. I know it sucks seeing a B next to the result when you've become very used to getting double S or double S plus, or for many of you, triple S on all of the codexes, or at least some of them. And it is going to be kind of a big jolt that you're going to drop down. Like when I originally got C on my first attempt on this codex while I was learning it, that was like top 16%. So if you can just perform, you're going to do really well and get really good rewards, and it's something you can work towards over time. So like I said, I will really simplify the fight for you. At the end of the video, I'm going to give you tons and tons and tons of alternatives for every role. And then, of course, I'm going to show you the fight in between all of that. So I want to show you 4 versions of the fight, essentially. There is going to be my epics only version, which, yes, it's not the greatest score in the world, but hey, we got a D, epics only. It's really hard to do much better than this. I think when I actually show you, we are going to take out Lunaria and we are going to put in Maul. That should help a little bit. But I think comfortably, if you have good gear, even with epics only, you can get a D. And obviously, you should not use epics only. And if you follow my strategy, you should get at least a C. Sincerely, you should. Then, as you guys can see, it's kind of infuriating. You seem to need iovar and Beelzebub. Every single comp in the top 100 here has iovar and Beelzebub. Iovar and Beelzebub, full stop. Granted, they also have Silas and Hex, but really that iovar and Beelzebub thing is going to be annoying for people because iovar is a rare ancient exclusive lord, and Beelzebub is fairly new in this game. Not everyone has a Bubba copy. So I will do one run without iovar and one run without Beelzebub. Finally, at the end, I will do my final run. It's supremely unlikely I will get 1.9 million. I streamed this for 6 hours trying to get this score. Fairly consistently, I was able to get S plus, like 1.5 million or higher, but getting the right RNG is infuriating. So to understand why, let's head in. I don't want this video to be too long. Don't worry. Let's get right into it, and let me tell you about how this fight works. So basically, there's the Mother of Crows. She's a Kriya reskin. She looks really cool on the battlefield, and she is going to summon these 3 types of Dread Crows. Don't go in here and read these tooltips because they're all the same. It's just going to confuse you. Let me explain it to you right now. But she summons these 3 kinds, And depending on which one you kill when, that will provide you and your allies a buff. Moreover, these crows ping pong back and forth if you don't kill them in time to these like flames of foul. Here you go. They're called the foul runes. So essentially they touch these flames, and every time they do, they're going to light up this center circle here. Once it's lit up with 6 lights, a certain effect will happen when the Mother of Crows does this ability over here, the Unholy Trinity. Why is it called the Unholy Trinity? Because these foul ruin flames here on the side can be one of 3 colors. They can be red, yellow, or green, and depending on what color they are as they fill the circle, that will determine the next big nasty effect that the Mother of Crows does. This took me a long time to figure out exactly how it was happening, but essentially every time you do not kill a crow before it touches that foul rune, it will fill up one of those spots. And whenever it hits 6, it will trigger this Unholy Trinity. So the Unholy Trinity has 3 effects. They're called Bloodbeak, Chains, and Curse. It's very confusing. All you need to know, every time it's triggered, there's a big AoE blast, and all of your guys get hit. If it's red when it's lit up, that means it's Bloodbeak. This is going to not just do the AoE blast, but also reduce the attack of all your allies. This sucks, especially for the moments in the battle you really need to deal a lot of damage. I will explain that to you. Then we have Chains. This happens when the circle lights up yellow. It has 6 yellow lights on it. The Unholy Trinity will be Chains. It's the big AoE blast, and then it reduces your allies' attack speed. That sucks. And then the worst of them all, when these are green and the circle fills up with 3 and the circle in the middle fills up with 6 green lights, is going to trigger Curse. Essentially, this is a big AoE blast and then a damage over time effect. It's poison. And also, your allies will continuously have your rage reduced. You will keep seeing it tick up and then jump down. It is very annoying, but you got to deal with it. I got to say, I like this mechanism. I think it's a really cool challenge in the fight, but it drives me insane because nowhere does it tell you how long these last. From what I can tell, it's like 5 to 10 seconds, but it's really important to know when these debuffs are on you and when they wear off. The rest of the things you need to know about her kit, essentially, when she's in the middle at the beginning of the fight, she'll disappear. That's what this Unholy Pact thing is. Forget that exists. She essentially disappears and summons crows. So when she summons the crows and they kind of do their laps back and forth, you want to kill them as quickly as possible, so not to let them touch the lights and fill the lights in the circle and then trigger one of these 3 Unholy Trinity effects. And also, very importantly, as soon as you kill all of the crows she summoned that little moment, that round, she will reappear with her head down in the middle and she'll be in a weakened state. Once the actual boss rush portion of the fight starts, that is the only time you can deal damage and rack up points for your score. So it's really important you take that moment to absolutely unload on the Mother of Crows. There's only 2 other things to understand in her kit, and they actually are so much more simple than you realize. This thing, Pitch Black, you'll see there's 4 corners in this square around the center circle. There's going to be like a purple feather, and those appear every time the Mother of Crows triggers the Unholy Trinity. They will disappear once you clear all the crows she's just summoned and she enters the weakened state. You can consider that like a round. However, if she gets 4 triggers of this before you've cleared all the crows, which if that's happening anyway, the fight's kind of falling apart. But if she gets 4 triggers of Unholy Trinity before you've cleaned up all these crows, she's going to trigger something called Pitch Black. She's got the 4 purple feathers. They're calling it 4 stacks. It fully wipes your team. The battle ends. However, if you can clear all the crows she summoned for that round, those stacks disappear and she enters this phase called Twilight. That's the weakened state. So it's a weakened state. I wish there was a timer on it. Again, it's kind of crazy. There are no timers on the buffs you get in this fight, the debuffs they place on you, or the weakened state. It really is the bane of my existence right now. But she'll be in this weakened state. You can think of it kind of like that in-between phases in Semra, and that is your moment to completely unload. There's no other moments when you're in the boss rush that you can rack up points. So you really, really want to take advantage. The final thing you just heard me say, you can get buffs. Yes, every time you kill one of the Dread Crows that she summons in each round, you get a little buff effect. So if you want to see these in the tooltip, they only wrote it on the Dread Crow, the red one, the Bloodbeak. but just go here, Necrotic Bloom. When Dread Crows of different attributes die, they grant different buffs to all heroes on the battlefield. So the Blood Dread Crow, this is the red one. When you kill him, this is really great for your team. It's going to increase your attack for a period of time. How long is that period of time? I have no idea. It feels like 5 or 10 seconds. I don't know. Then we have the Swift Dread Crow. That is the yellow one. Whenever you kill one of these, it's going to increase the attack speed for all heroes on the battlefield, for all of your allies. And then finally, we've got the green one over here. When you kill the green one, the Spirit Dread Crow, continuously it will restore your HP and rage for all heroes on the battlefield. Because of this, you do not need any healers. You do not need any rage generators. That's really fun. However, you got to be very careful if you can control it, but there's so much RNG, it's hard to control. Ideally, before you're about to reach the weakened state at the end of every round, you'd prefer the last crow you killed not to be the green one, the Spirit Dread Crow, because you won't get any kind of DPS boost. The attack speed boost is really good, and obviously the attack boost is really good. So ideally, it is another layer of RNG. You're going to want to kill the red one or the yellow one before you reach the weakened state. That is basically everything you need to know. You would think there's tons of crows flying around in this fight, so you want to bring a lot of AoE. A little bit of AoE is good, but mostly you want some amount of crowd control, and then you want your absolute best single target platform DPS. Why do I say platform? You cannot deploy any units on the ground tiles in this fight. And frankly, as you can see from the leaderboard, it kind of turns into Furious Torrent. Like very much iovar is the meta with a couple piercers, and then yeah, Beelzebub and maybe one other thing. So without further ado, let's enter the fight and let me show you exactly how this works. It's going to be a lot simpler once you see it. Right now, I have all the gear from my main team just moved over to this Epics only team. Give me 1 second as I take out Lunaria and put in Maul. Okay, so I swapped in Maul. You might be wondering, why are you taking out Lunaria? Obviously, I have Brienne and Idril here. They would benefit. Yes, but it's really just the 10% attribute boost because we don't need, with how I'm going to use them, we don't need the extra attack range. Maul with his crowd control and AoE DPS is going to be a lot more useful for us. So without further ado, let's enter the fight. This is just going to be to show you the basics, and then from there, we'll get to see the real comps, and you guys can start applying it to your own roster. So we can have our single target DPS. We're just going to spread them out wide. This is not going to be how I personally do it on my thing because I'm going to use Beelzebub. But if you don't have Beelzebub, you kind of can't have a great inspiration option. You'll see once we use Beelzebub, but essentially he is able to get 3 DPS in his inspiration range. No other inspiration hero in this game can get more than 1. So because of that, we can spread them out. So we're going to put Idril on one side. We're going to put Brienne on the other. We've got our crowd control units here. We're going to do Mari and Greed. And then we've got our crowd control / DPS units here. We've got Maul and we've got Iona. That's pretty dang good. So already, let's put it on 1x. You can see there's 3 lights on the center circle. I'm also going to make myself a lot smaller and put myself in the corner here. But there's 3 lights on the circle. You can see right now these are the red foul runes. So every time these crows touch the runes, they light up another one. Once all 6 of these are lit up, the Mother of Crows appears, and she's going to do one of her Unholy Trinity effects. So because it's red, you know it's going to be the AoE blast, and then the decrease all of our allies' attack for a period of time. So ideally, we want to be killing these guys before they can fill that thing up. However, later on, you're going to probably want to find special moments to let them fill up so you can get a debuff out of the way before you head into the weakened state. But you'll see that when we do more of our real run. So there you can see he was able to touch. That fills it up a 4th time. This one's going to touch here. That will be a 5th time. That's a 6th time. And now look, the Mother of Crows will appear. There's the Unholy Trinity. The bar shows up. I'm not going to trigger Idril right now because this is just the pre-boss rush phase. So here she is. She's going to do an AoE blast. We all get hit, but don't worry, you can heal yourself back up whenever you heal a green crow. And then she does the AoE hit, and then for this one, it's a decrease attack for a period of time. Again, how long? We'll never know. Let's trigger Idril so we can start cleaning this up. But look, it's switched to yellow now. Are they going to get a touch? They do. So now they've got 1 yellow light of the 6 they'll need to trigger the yellow effect, which is the AoE blast and the decrease attack speed. Idril doing a bad job here, but I actually can't believe how bad a job Idril's doing here. Oh, you know why? Because we had the decrease attack on. There you go. So now the damage will go up. You can see how long it lasts. It's very annoying. Let's see. Now she's back. 65k. There you go. So now we killed all the crows that have been summoned. This is that weakened state. So we'll get a couple triggers going. It doesn't matter too much because, like I said, this is pre-boss rush. Yes, we're wasting time, but we're not going to last that long in this fight anyway with this comp, so we don't really care about the time at the beginning. There's a lot of strategy that can go into how you use the pre-boss phase, particularly with what buffs or what debuffs you let load up or don't let load up, because it always will cycle red, yellow, green, and some of those can be really disadvantageous. Red and yellow will hurt your DPS, and you don't want your DPS hurt as you head into a weakened phase. Moreover, green is most likely to kill you because it's the AoE blast and then continuous damage over time. So here we go again, another weakened state. I'll trigger here. Also, very important thing to know, like greed is hitting the boss. Brienne's hitting the boss. When the boss is in the weakened state, it doesn't matter where your units are deployed on the field, they will be able to reach the boss. So another thing I want to mention, you notice we're at 37.8% now. When you're in the pre-boss rush phase, so like the warm-up part of the fight, you can burst it down. You can kill faster the crows that are summoned so you can get to the weakened states faster, but always, the first chunk will be about a third removed. So you'll be somewhere in the mid to high 60s. Usually for me, it's like 68, 69% remaining. Doesn't matter if you use all your best DPS or you sit on all your ults and you don't do anything. It's just going to tick down and she'll be there until you're in about a third off, so 2/3 health remaining. It will be the same thing here. It's always in the mid to high 30s. So typically it's like 37, 38, 39%. The final one is always somewhere in like the 5 to 10% range. Typically it's between like 7 and 8.5%. So because of that, you can really just sit on your ults for that period unless you're trying to time them out heading out of the weakened state. That is only the case for the pre-boss rush phase. For the boss rush phase, if possible, whenever possible, you want to completely unload on the boss during the weakened state because that's how you rack up your big points. So you can see we switched to green now. There's 2 green lights, so 4 more touches. Now there'll be 3, now there'll be 4, 2 more touches, and then there'll be the AoE blast and the poisons. But again, we're in pretty decent control here. Once we kill this green guy, look at that. Now everyone starts healing and generating rage. That's great. Another important thing we've got to talk about, I should have mentioned earlier, putting crowd control effects is really nice because it slows down how quickly the crows can bounce back and forth. On the boss, she's immune to everything but slow. That doesn't really matter. But for the dread crows, you can do any crowd control. So stun, slow, freeze, immobilize, whatever. However, if you do slow, there's going to be a special thing that's triggered. You'll see accursed shackles. When under control, different CC effects reduce different attributes. They're going to take more damage when they're under slow. So that's pretty good. Regardless of whether or not it's a cultist comp or something, it's just something that seems to happen in this fight. So here we go. Let's take the last one out. They actually just filled it up. So here will be the AoE blast and the poison. There's an interesting thing that just was demonstrated. If you can get that last kill while she's doing her animation for the Unholy Trinity, you'll cancel it out. So that's definitely an interesting thing. So here it is. You'll see I won't use any ults, and this will go down to like 8%. This is just how it works for the pre-boss stage. So like I said, 7 to 8%, 7.2. Another interesting thing, and this is important as you head out of the pre-boss phase, and this is important as you head out of the pre-boss rush phase and into the boss rush, and also head out of in and out of weakened phases once you're in the boss rush. Whatever lights you have when you enter a weakened state, you'll have the exact same lights waiting when you come out of it. So if we were headed into the weakened state right now, and we had 3 red lights, after it was over, they would pick up where they left off with 3 red lights. So let's get this finished. Again, I'm just not going to ult because we don't have to. Let's get that final pick off. Mari with the nice slows. And this will take it down, and then we will enter the boss rush. So you can see here, this is the boss rush. I'll trigger Maul there to get some slows and some hits. It's kind of annoying, though, because they're moving laterally. So this is something I have an issue with on my comp with the Nora. You saw that with Maul. I hit one, but this one kind of made her way out of range because everyone has the late effects. We want to go here, and that was an important thing, right? So there was the big red AoE blast. That means all of us have decreased attack right now, and this will affect the amount of DPS we can unload in that temporary weakened state. So ideally, I don't want to kill these guys too fast right now because I don't want to have decreased attack when I'm in the weakened state, because we're going to do a lot less damage. So if you ever feel like this was me going crazy while I was streaming it, maybe you guys have had the similar feeling. I'm like, why am I doing so much less damage all the time? Because we don't know how long the debuff lasts, you might still have decreased attack on you while you're trying to put out a lot of DPS in the boss rush, in the weakened phase, the weakened stance. However, we don't want to let this load the whole way up and then we get the decreased attack and another AoE blast. So we want to find that sweet spot when we feel like the debuff has worn off, and then we can then do the weakened state before the next debuff and big blast comes. So let's see how we're doing. Pretty bad. So let's trigger Idril there. Get Mari to boost Idril and get some freezes. They're already up to 5 lines. This kind of stinks. We just killed a green one, so we're healing up though. This is going to happen whether we like it or not. However, with only 2 left, if we can kill them pretty fast, they won't be able to go to the green mode. So there's that little thing for the decreased attack speed. And hopefully they don't get 4 more touches and also the debuff wears off. So you can see it looks like we'll be good. And we shall. Even if this happens, we're still in fine shape. So let's ult with Idril there. Here comes the Unholy Trinity. Let's trigger Mari. And you'll see our rage is going to start going down by 10%. Kind of sucks as we were headed into the weakened state, but rather that than we have like debuffs on us, so we do a lot less damage. Look, we just hit E. That's pretty good. I promise this will look a lot cooler and a lot cleaner once we use a real comp, but I kind of wanted to highlight this for you guys now. So as these guys enter, let's get a big hit with Maul. Pretty good. Here comes an AoE blast, and actually the whole run's going to fall apart. Maybe I shouldn't have lost Lunaria. But it doesn't matter. You guys have seen the lights. You have seen the thing. You get the picture. You know what I'll do now? I'll quickly put Lunaria in, and I'll do a really sped up version, and you'll get to see us at least get a D with this comp. Not that it really matters, but then we'll pick it up with some actual action and some real heroes that we would actually use for this fight. All right, here we go again out of the boss rush in the weakened state. We do have the reduced rage on us, which is very annoying. Trying to hammer Brienne here. It's not happening for us. We're up to basically where we were at before, though, with 48.6. Save Mari till we need the slow. This should be pretty good. Just the one guy left. Let's trigger Idril there. We do have the debuff on us, which is very annoying. Let's trigger Mari. Cool, got it. Let's go there with Brienne. Let's go with Iona. I think we need to get to 150. Okay, this is going to be tight. We're going to have to make it to one more boss phase, which we'll see if we can do. One more thing I want to explain, and I should have mentioned earlier with the Dread Crows. Yes, you can and you should be crowd controlling them. However, they have this very annoying passive called Resilience that once you've applied 5 total seconds of crowd control upon them, they're going to get 4 seconds of crowd control immunity. So someone like Mari can't be like spamming slows on them. You can't get tons and tons of freezes, tons of stuns, anything like that. It's very annoying. It makes the fight a lot harder, but it's just part of the battle. Let's go with Idril. We can't afford more than one more big blast, so we really got to get ahead of this. Let's make to the boss phase here. I'm going to save that Mari ult. Come on, guys. Get the kills. We should have this. One more. Wow, are you serious? Come on. Boom, boom, boom. More Idril. Come on, give me that 150. There we go. There's the D I wanted to show you guys. So yeah, is a D very exciting? No. But is anyone out there going to do all epics? No. So you can use way, way worse gear than I'm using here. Take out these epics, and I promise, just using that basic thing, even if you don't have Beelzebub, you don't use any inspiration hero, you don't even have to use a Lord per se, you'll still get an acceptable score. Like D would be probably 50% right now, right? So you'll get over half the rewards the number 1 guy in the world getting triple S would get. So it's not something to just shake off. Go for at least the bare minimum like that. I think the next best thing to do now is going to be to show you my actual comp. That's how you're going to get to see a lot of the strategy in action. And then what I'll do is I'll go into my comp and I'll take out Iovar and then put in Lunaria, and then I'll go into my comp and I'll take out Beelzebub and just put in another DPS. And for both of those, we should get at least like a B plus or an A, so you get a really nice sense of what we're working with. Give me 1 second to set up my real comp. All right, guys, here we go. This is the main team I ended up using. I did many variations of this team. The 4 units I always used were Iovar, Silas, Hex, and Beelzebub, just like basically every other top team. And then my alternating units were Boreas and Anora. The other ones I tried were Mari, who's really good for the crowd control. I tried Beatrix, who did a very good job and is a great option for this, but my Beatrix is only a 0, and I was going for a pretty high score. And then I actually used Calypso. Calypso can do a pretty good amount of damage. Another good option there. We'll do all the alternates at the end, but Yuri is really good. And basically it's just filling that role of like a third marksman from the Piercers that isn't Iovar. Lady Alex is the best in this by a mile, but I do not have her, just like I'm sure 99.9% of you do not have her. So this is going to be the comp. I'll take you through the gear in literally 30 total seconds. The gear is really good. I don't really know what else to say. You can see it's lots of good Soulbound Arcana, and then always Wicked Vengeance or Warlord. Some cool pieces here. No Hex exclusive. Iovar had a Iovar exclusive. Here's some Silas gear. I'm probably clicking too fast, but you get the idea. Beelzebub's in Wings of Grace, and he's just trying to get attack with attack speed. That's really it. You don't have to worry about anything else. And then finally, we have our 2 Esotericist mages that also provide some crowd control. Anora here is particularly good because she has her bond skill. If she doesn't have her bond skill, you just should not use her for this. If you're going to bring an AoE unit in, it should be Nyx if she's like A3 or higher for higher scores. Otherwise, any level of Nyx is good, or maybe like a Kai. Like I said, we'll do all the alternatives later. Or bring someone with some crowd control. So someone like a Beatrix who's bringing DPS and slows, or Boreas who's bringing DPS and freezes. Without the bond skills, she's just a DPS, and that's not really going to be enough. She's not that good just for that without the merit bond skill. But yeah, that's going to be her. Here's Boreas. This is a very good piece. And you kind of get the picture. Anora's in a maxed out exclusive. Hex is in a maxed out exclusive. Beelzebub's in a maxed out Tear of Twilight. So is Boreas, Silas, and Iovar, and maxed out Spirit Siphons. All right, let me show you the run, guys. And no promises that the score is going to be super high. You'll get to maybe experience some of the really rough RNG. We're going to place Silas over here so he's closer to where they stall out on the runes. Then we're going to place Beelzebub there so he can place the buff upon Silas. You can see there is the Wings of Grace. Then we are going to place, we're going to place Hex here pointed up, Iovar here pointed down, and now we're going to place Boreas and Anora. People on stream are asking me why I place Boreas and Anora on the right side when you're looking at it as opposed to the left, closer to the middle. I found it was better because you're getting them right after they start moving off of the runes, which is a really tricky time. And if you have Nora, when she's ulting, she can still hit that spot. So pretty good. I found this to be the best. Also, Boreas obviously can hit this spot when he does his special effect with that 2.5 radius explosion thing. So you'll see I'm going to just not do anything here. That is kind of by design. I'm just going to wait for a second once we get these kills. Unfortunately, he touched there, which is annoying, but it's all right. Now I'm going to ult with Boreas. That should be enough cleanup for us because I really want to manage the debuffs, right? So we have 1 yellow light now. I want to make sure we have no bad debuffs heading into the boss rush phase. You can see I can really tear through these guys because my guys are strong. Let's let this happen. So this is by design, right? They haven't triggered this yet. I want them to trigger this now, and then heading out of the boss rush phase, I want to have cleared the red and the yellow debuffs, so we're off to a good start. It is really tricky, though. You know, sometimes you're going to just get the kill and they don't touch, but sometimes you don't, and that can really throw your run in one direction or another. Did you get hit with a totally debilitating debuff, or are you fine? That's kind of what this comes down to. So there's 6 yellows. That's the trigger. We blocked them out there. Somehow we let them touch. I don't know what Boreas is doing. So they got 1 green. This will head out here. See, I don't matter. The time doesn't matter too much. This did line up pretty bad in the end with the debuffs, but we don't care about the rage block out here in a second. Now we enter the boss rush. Right as it comes out, I'm going to trigger Hex because his ult obviously lasts a while. After these two guys touch and trigger this, but before she does the decrease in rage and we like lose it, you'll see once the thing comes up, the countdown there, I'm going to trigger Silas and Beelzebub. It's coming right there. Let's wait for that kill. I guess it never came, or I was a little late on it. All right, perfect. You can see our three main guys are ulting with the inspiration as the weakened state comes up, and there was no nasty debuff upon us. As soon as iovar can, we're going to trigger this. He had all his swords ready since I hadn't used him, and we should be at least at 250. So let's throw it on 1x. Let's take a peek. 266. So there's a ton of variability here. Anyone that watched on stream, I was tracking all this stuff. This is all in thousands, but some of my best ones, I got as high as 357,000. And then some of my worst ones at the beginning, I was down in the hundreds. It kind of comes down to the RNG we discussed and some other element of RNG I don't understand. Obviously with Hex, there's this card RNG, which is annoying, but I found if I'm in like 250K or higher, at least I've got the shot at a good run. I will tell you, if I was trying to beat the 1.9 million, I would cancel this run. If I was getting less than 300K at this first weakened state, I wouldn't do any more. Here's a tip for something I did that helped my run improve. Maybe it will help you guys. I'm not going to use Boreas and Anora here because I don't want to kill these guys too fast. You can see we only have one light, and I want to give Silas and Beelzebub the opportunity to have their ults come back around. It's actually a little messed up because we were in the green mode, but it's okay. Here it comes. Trigger Silas, trigger Beelzebub. I should get the kill right now. We got the attack speed boost. Red or yellow's who you want to kill heading into the weakened state, never green. There we go. There's weakened state. Iovar's got all his swords. Let's trigger. And then coming out of this, we're going to trigger Boreas and Anora. So ideally, we'd want to be at least at 500K. Kind of a tough RNG there, unfortunately. Not the best run, but yeah, you can just kind of see, depending on who just touches or who doesn't, or what lines up and what doesn't, the run can be thrown off in so many different ways, and it's really infuriating. But at least we're in okay shape there. There's the kill. Slightly late to trigger Silas and Beelzebub. You know, because these ults are slightly delayed, ideally you'll have trigger them right before the weakened state starts. Let's get a little iovar. We'll go with the Nora again. Now we really want Nora and Boreas doing crowd control and AoE over there. I want to show you. So right now we've done 3 weakened states. You know, one of my better runs here, 17.5 million. I was already at 888,000 damage. So this is kind of a rough run. You can see we're coming in at 66.1. Part of me understands why. We had a couple unlucky breaks with triggers. Part of me doesn't. And it's really annoying. And I wish you could at least click and see where the debuffs are at and stuff like that, but you really can't, and it's very annoying. So we killed that too fast, as you can see there. So here she comes, but I'm not ready with Beelzebub and Silas. So again, if this is a real run, I would just restart because enough things have gone pretty freaking wrong. 846K, so you can see the fourth weakened state here, we are already at 1.1 million. So there's just a lot of RNG that goes into this. If you want to really see it, you should go watch my full stream or click around and skip around. Watch me lose my mind because I did lose my mind because parts of the RNG I still don't understand. All right, for me, it might be different for you. This is the part of the fight where after this we can say, again, terrible lineup that we've kind of put ourselves into with Beelzebub and Silas always being late. We're missing out on tons of damage, at least tens and tens of thousands, if not over the course of the fight, hundreds of thousands of damage. But this is the part of the fight where no longer am I saving everything for the weakened states. I want to actually make sure we just survive and keep killing. So, you know, when I have the opportunities like here, you'll see with iovar, I'm just going to unload and try to chip away at this guy. That'll be a nice heal too. There they just did the curse, the green AoE. You can see we're poisoned and we've got the regen down, but we also are healing a little bit because I killed the green guy. There's a plus 2100 health. 2 guys left to kill and they're both the good ones, but we're getting kind of screwed by the rage regen thing here. So we're locked out with Silas and Beelzebub, but pretty good that it came back around. Hopefully we get at least like 1.2 million or something here so I can show you guys a half decent run. Pretty solid, 1.16. But again, this is kind of a poultry run. There really is just an infuriating levels of RNG in this fight. As long as you're at full health, you can always survive the big AoE blast if you have a decent build. But if you're like at half health, you'll usually get worn out, especially when that curse comes. And that's going to be the thing that throws off a lot of your guys' runs. So we got to get these kills fast because the curse is coming very quick. Let's see. Can we lock them out? Let's trigger with iovar. Okay, we did. We just kind of, finagle our way out of that curse, getting the kill right as she was about to do it. That's pretty good. Can we at least get to S here, guys? Come on now. 1.3 million. Not a good run. Not a good run at all. I might do a sped up run just to like kind of redeem myself for anyone that doesn't want to go watch the whole stream. I wouldn't blame you because this is kind of rough. Good news is we will get one more weakened state, and we are in pretty good shape here. So let's trigger Beelzebub, trigger Silas. This actually, no, I won't have to do it. This will be S right here. Unload with Anora. Just throw an auto ult at this point because the fight's over. Can we get S+? No. Just missed the S+, but we got 1.5. S+ is somewhere close to 1.5. Maybe it's 1.6. But there you go. Pretty decent run. You kind of get the gist, I hope. I know it all seems to happen fast. Again, you can go watch the stream if you really want to see all the different ways this can vary. But there's a lot of RNG you can see coming and then have to deal with. And there's a lot of RNG that I feel like is right under the surface. Sometimes to me, it feels like the debuffs last a short period of time. Sometimes it feels like they last a long period of time. Sometimes it feels like the buffs are helping us. Sometimes it feels like they aren't. There's a lot of stuff obscured here. I think they could have polished this off a little more before release, but you can see there's a nice little picture of what we're doing. There's kind of our 2, maybe 3 main DPS. This varies a little bit too, but even with Silas and Beelzebub not lining up too well in this fight, he still put up 110 million. So pretty good. And I'll tell you, if you guys can get to 1.5 million, that would be 1%. That would be the top 1%. Since I passed like 1.4 million today, I've been in the top 1%. Let's actually take a very quick peek. So yeah, 1.6 is S+. So I think for a lot of people, if you've got the meta heroes, once you feel it out, you should probably, even without amazing gear, I think you've got a really good shot at A+ or S. And then as the gear gets better and your technique gets better and your patience gets better, it can go higher and higher and higher. So I think we've kind of gotten the idea. Let's keep it going though. Let's very simply just take out iovar and let's do a no iovar comp. And let's put in Lunaria. Lunaria will be helpful here because we lean so heavily on Silas and Hex. The extra 10% basic attributes are kind of important. I've got my Mother of Crows iovar gear. Let's throw that on. I'm not going to make you guys sit through this whole fight. We'll get to the boss rush, and then maybe at the end of the first weakened state, we'll pick it up. So let me enter. I'll see you in a second. I just want to pause it here actually and show you. You can see we're at 36.8. If you've been following along the whole time, every time it's like basically a third off, basically a third off, basically a third off. So like I said, there's no need to unload during the weakened states of the pre-boss rush phase. It's not going to speed anything up. You can unload if it's lining up with your RNG and what you're looking for what debuffs to get and to avoid. You can kind of rush the killing of the crows before the weakened state in the pre-boss phase, but you're not going to get any extra DPS. There's variability to it, but it's like mid to high 60s, mid to high 30s, and then somewhere like 5% to 9%. That's what it always is. You'll always have to go through 3 weakened states. You'll see here, this is going to be like 7% or something. 8.3. There you go. All right, here's the first weakened state. You can see we lined it up. We've got 1 green light into the curse round. The curse is where you get poisoned and where you obviously get the reduced rage, where they keep ticking off that 10%. We'll unload here, and you'll see the damage is going to be way worse. Like if we pull up this sheet, I know this is kind of sloppy, but you saw last time we did like 250K. And here, I've ranged 195 to 320. We're going to do a lot less here with Lunaria instead of iovar, but still 137K. We're already at E. We're well on our way to do something pretty dang acceptable, I would say. We're going to let it go all through here. As soon as we can with Beelzebub and Silas, we're going to ult. Let's ult with Hex. That actually lined up really, really nicely for us. And we're going to just lock her out, I think, on her effect. Nice. Let's trigger Anora and Bryce as we head out of the second weakened state. That's when I like to trigger the AoEs. You also might have noticed this is where normally I would place iovar or Hex. I decided to put Hex up here this time just so these guys are kind of concentrated. I'm putting Anora here since she does slightly more DPS than Bryce, and Lunaria, who's not going to do anything. She does not need to be in Beelzebub range. I'll also take the moment to show you, this is why Beelzebub's so goated for this fight, right? If this was Diao Chan or Dolores, only Honora would be buffed. But because Beelzebub's got a big inspiration and he's got 5x3 range with his tiles, he's buffing Silas, Hex, and Honora. And 3 inspired units versus 1 is humongous. You know, you'll see when we take out Beelzebub for the next fight, I'm not going to put in Diao Chan or Dolores. I'm just going to bring another DPS because that's more valuable than buffing just one of your DPS. So unfortunately, here comes the green moment. Let's trigger. Maybe we can get a quick trigger on Silas before we get locked out. And we did. So that actually worked out really nice. So there's another weakened state. Already up to C, almost at 500,000 damage. 500,000 points. And at this point, we're kind of unloading. Obviously, we don't have the DPS we would with a iovar comp. And we just got to lean into our AoEers with our crowd control. And then just try to be killing these crows so she doesn't get too many of these unholy trinities off. It's also worth mentioning, I kind of glaze over this because you're always just going to try to kill this fast, but every time she does do an unholy trinity, whether it's red, yellow, or green, she'll slightly increase her attack and her penetration. So the more time she's getting that off in a fight, the more quickly the fight will fall apart because she's just becoming more and more overpowered. All right, let's trigger and let's trigger. Let's get that kill. So we don't want to waste these ults, not on the weakened state. There we go. Boom. Trigger Nora. Look at that. That should put us almost to B+, I would think. Yeah, over 700K already. Be cool if we get to 1 million. I don't know if we can. We're basically spamming ults. We don't need to be doing too much waiting at this point in the fight. Let's go with Hex. You can see if we get hit with one more big AoE blast, Beres is going to die, and it looks like probably Silas will die too. We are about to get some pickoffs, though, so if they don't touch... Oh, he just made it. That's very infuriating. Let's trigger with Honora. Here she comes, but we can say, okay, cool. So when she was getting ready to do the big green AoE curse, we trigger the weakened state. Everyone's ulting, so it should be a good amount of DPS. Why is it not more DPS? I don't know. I never will know. I don't understand this fight as well as I would like to. I think there's a lot of stuff that's just completely hidden from us. But DPS is pretty good. We're coming up on 1 million. If we can make it to one more weakened state, we'll be good to go. Big if. Basically going to put on auto ults here and just hammer away. Oh, we are going to make it. So can we get to 1 million, please? For the video? Amazing. So there you go. We broke 1 million in a no iovar comp. Can we get A+? Just missed it, I think. I think 1.1 is A+. So we just missed an A+, but pretty good. 1.08. I don't think we're going to make it out of this part here. Yeah, there's a big blast. The run falls apart. But there you go. So yes, I've got good heroes with good awakenings, good gear, but we did break 1 million, right? Like we got to A. It's a little annoying because breaking 1 million in a lot of other fights would already be S or at least A+. This fight, it takes like 2.2 million to get triple S, which is the most we've ever needed from a fight. But there you go. It is viable if you have to use Lunaria. You will be restricted because iovar is a way better choice. He can do a lot more DPS himself, and it's a much better Lord skill, but at least it is something. And you can see with more RNG, we could get this up to 1.2, 1.25 if it lined up a lot nicer than it just lined up there. I'll show you the big issue is Lunaria's just not doing that much damage. It's not nothing, but it's just not that much. Same gear as iovar, she's doing like 50 million less. All right, there you have it. We're going to make one more change now. All right, I'm going to take that gear from Lunaria, put it back on iovar, so he will replace her. Let's get iovar in the mix. Oh, I already had him in the mix. Now let's take out Beelzebub and let's bring Calypso as a DPS. I already have her geared out in some pretty nice Infernal Roar. I've got an amazing Calypso breastplate on this account, if I can find it for you guys, but I've got that on Hex, and it's more important it goes on Hex than Calypso. But in theory, we could put that cool exclusive on her. But we're not going to. So this will be it. No Beelzebub, and this will be the end of the video. I really hope this helped you guys. I know this ended up being pretty freaking long. It's a very complicated fight. I'm sure there are little like things I could have explained better or been more concise about, but this was basically all I've done today. So hopefully there was a nice amount. Hopefully there are enough good nuggets in here that it can help a lot of you. So we have no Beelzebub, so we don't have to worry about that stuff. So we can split everybody up. We're going to go Silas here, Hex here, iovar here, Calypso here, and then we are going to get Beres there and Honora there. That should definitely be enough. And we're just going at it with all DPS, right? Simple as that. No Beelzebub, no problem. Of course, we're going to do worse because the big way you rack up points is just unloading on that in between. When you get those big rounds where you put up 320K and then 599, that's setting you up for success in a crazy way before the fight gets out of hand. That's not possible if you don't have 3 units that are getting inspiration during those weakened states. That being said, we can still do a pretty good job at the start of this fight. And again, we'll put up a really respectable score. That would comfortably be, if not top 1%, top 5% for where this challenge is at right now, where this Immortal Codex boss is at right now. It's that difficult, right? So you really don't have to feel bad. I streamed 6 hours trying to get that double S and trying to learn this fight. Like, it's just that kind of fight. Trigger Boreas there. Dang, they're getting too many touches here. That's not good. All right, Hex is ready. Let's ult with him. Let's ult with Anora as well, because I really don't want to trigger this yellow. Slightly late there with Silas. Good with iovar. Let's unload. And you can see coming out of this one, better than the Lunaria comp with Beelzebub, but still way worse than iovar. But 188 is pretty good. That's going to be better than a lot of accounts, right? So you can definitely do that, guys. Let's trigger Boreas now. Okay. I'll save Anora. Got that kill. Oh, here we go. This guy's pretty ready. So this is actually a good thing, right? We're going to kill Red. Red's going to give us the attack boost buff, which is obviously one of the 2 really, really good buffs. And then Silas is having time to get his ult ready. Again, I'm slightly late on him. This would have been a much better run if I was early on him from the beginning. And unfortunately, Hex expired there. But we're already over 300K. So again, it's a pretty good run. It's pretty dang solid. And this is without Beelzebub. At this point, though, I'll be honest, without Beelzebub, I'm just going to kind of be unloading with everyone as I see fit. We won't be able to take as good advantage of the weakened state as I'd like to unless it just lines up really nicely. I definitely do not want this this red debuff on us as we head into the weakened state. Unfortunately, they will get a touch here, but they won't get the 6th touch they need. So that's pretty huge. Let's ult with Boreas to make sure this doesn't happen. Come on. Let's go with iovar. Perfect. Okay, let's go with Silas. Again, I'm a little late with Silas. That's the theme of the day for me. The Hex timing, just RNG-wise, has lined up really poorly, so that stinks. But we're coming up on 500,000. So unfortunately, we're killing the green one now, heading into the boss, so there'll be no damage boost for us because we're not getting attack speed or extra attack. But actually, I did get Silas right finally. There's iovar, there's Anora, there's Boreas. That brings us to B. I would a little late on iovar there, unfortunately. I would love to at least get to an A again. That'd be really cool. I say at least an A. We're not getting higher than an A, but I'd love to get to an A. That's what I'm trying to say. Let's go with iovar and pick that guy off. Nope, he got a touch. That freaking stinks. Here's going to come the curse and the big AoE. And you can see we're hurting here, right? Because we don't have inspiration. There's a reason Beelzebub's so good for this fight, but we just kind of have to suck it up. That stinks right there. Oh, we canceled it out though. They got the 6th. Late again with X and iovar, but as they got the 6th, we got the kill. So actually, we're just going to totally void that phase, which is really, really good. We're up to 750,000. You can imagine if I wasn't a little late on all these things, how great this could have gone. Getting very deep in the run, it's going to fall apart very shortly. So we're basically just going for B+ at this point. With iovar, I'm going to wait till these guys re-enter his range. There's a big blast. If we got a green kill. All right, we're in pretty good health. We're gonna make it here. Let's ult with Silas. So we're heading into this and then save iovar for the weakened state. Perfect. Boom. All right, there's the B+. Can we get to A, please? There's an A, baby. Can we get to 1 million? No. All right, we got another A, though, so you can see it. I mean, that's really, really, really respectable for this fight, I would say. Even if you just get C, guys, I think that's kind of a mission accomplished kind of thing. Let's just throw this on auto. At this point, we're just going to be spamming every time. And there we go. We get wiped. But another A, this one without Beelzebub, the other one without iovar. If you did it without both, with good timing, we probably could still get close to an A, probably be a B, maybe a B+. But there's a lot of finessing to be done. Like I said towards the beginning of the video, of course it's disappointing if you have like crazy heroes and crazy gear to feel like you're settling for a B or something. but I think we just have to accept that. If you guys remember when Furious Torrent came out, that was very frustrating. I'd say this is another level of frustration, but that's clearly the theme. When they release new content, they're making it exceptionally hard. There you go, folks. If you want to see all my crazy runs, like I said, you can check out that stream. If you have any specific questions, let me know down in the comments. The only thing left to do is to head into the gallery and talk about alternatives. And it's actually very simple, right? You need platformers and you need DPS. And then you need some crowd control that ideally also brings DPS. So let's start with the DPSers, and then we'll talk about DPS crowd controls, and then we'll talk about just crowd control. And then obviously we can talk about Diao Chen and Dolores, who I would not use for this fight, guys. I wouldn't. But if we go by all, it's got to be piercers, it's got to be marksmen, and it's got to be mages. If we look at the marksmen, Hotsit's okay. She can help you take out the crows really fast. She's not going to help with the boss damage too much because she can't bounce and get the defense break. Calypso, as you saw, is pretty dang good. I actually should have showed you guys Calypso's results, so let me show you that very fast. It's pretty impressive. So if we enter here, we can do our record, battle record, and then here's Calypso. She's coming at 30 million. That was without inspiration. With inspiration, she's usually at about 70-something million for me. Let me see if I can find an old Calypso run. This was 1.41. Yeah, this is just 45, but this is kind of a bad run. Do we have a good old... No, we don't. I had a 1.75 million run with Calypso, and she did like 75 million. About the same as iovar. Obviously, she's A5 and has a promo 4 exclusive, but I don't know. She's a pretty good option, you know. If you don't have Lady Alex and you don't have Yuri with multiple awakenings, Calypso is going to be a really good option. Let's soldier on. Let's go really fast now because I'm realizing how long this video has become. Nyx is really good if you have her A3 or higher and you're going for a higher score. There's even a couple top 100 teams with like A3 and A5 Nyx. Really, A5 is where you see it the most. But if you have less, she'll be a nice option, but she won't be like superstar. But, you know, if you're just going for that B or that A, she'll definitely help you. Maybe even like an S+, something like that. Fenris is fine. If you need a nice mix of crowd control and DPS, he totally works. Silas obviously was goated. Setchum's okay for this fight. He's a little clunky, and it sucks when he gets locked out. Cratch won't be very good at all. But again, if you need options, you can just bring it as the AoE DPS. But really, you want to lean into that single target. Sargok will kill himself. I'm not going to name everyone. I'll point out anyone relevant. Kai can be really good for this fight, especially if you have Awakenings. He's got good AoE DPS like Abrazos, and he's got his traps, which is some cool crowd control, and he's got his fun passive that is buffing all the other marksmen on the field. Not just piercers, all the marksmen. Pelagios has his Tidal Vortex that's going to help with some amount of crowd control, and he has decent DPS. Lynx, the crowd control is okay, even better than okay, but the DPS is bad. At that point, just go for Mari. Lady Alex is the GOAT. Micah is fine for single target if you're stripped for options, but not going to be a top option. Razak would not be particularly good for this fight, but if you need AoE, he's fine. Allura would be terrible. Lucius could be very good for this fight if you have him like A5 and you just need that single target DPS, though he won't be top tier. Yuri's really good, and even on some of the very top teams. I think she's on like 1 or 2 top 10 teams, but you need very good gear, and you're going to need some Awakenings, but she's exceptional. Talon's on like a 1 or 2 top 20 teams. She is very good. Again, you'll want some Awakenings and great gear, but she absolutely works. Those will be our marksmen. For our mages, when it comes to the single target, you're going to want people that put out a lot of hits, right? So you need people with a lower attack interval. Yes, you can make a lot of this stuff work, but you know, someone like Comet, that's big damage, big AoE, but without bringing some kind of crowd control, I just don't think he's a worthy option. So someone like Iax is amazing, buffing your whole team, doing crowd control with his slows, and obviously doing a lot of damage, and he's going to fit into whatever comp you bring him on. So he'll get the buff from iovar or the buff from Morgan, whatever you're planning. Shamir's like okay, I guess, but the damage kind of sucks. So at that point, just bring Mari. Lasir sucks. Let's keep going. Soul Cadence could be okay for taking on the boss, but you'd have to run him as a lord. So obviously that puts a pretty low ceiling on what you're going for. Morgan works for cultist comps, which from what I've seen are probably the second best comps for this, or at least they're up there after the iovar comps, though those are definitely elite. Kriya, if you ever like A5, would be really good for this fight, bringing some crowd control and some DPS. All these other guys are fairly skippable. Let's see. Boreas, obviously, I think is really good, especially if you have Awakenings. Seraphina could be pretty good for some single target DPS, but it really would not be a high outcome thing. You know, there's a ceiling on that. Beatrix is great. She's on a couple of the top 100 teams. especially if you have Awakenings. A lot of DPS after her buff and a pretty good slows and crowd control, and the slows are really good for this fight. That kind of covers most of it. I tried Dahlia. She doesn't work very well at all. Unfortunately, not that great. Glacius is on a couple top comps, especially if you have Awakenings. Glacius can do pretty good crowd control, single target, and then he can really punish the boss if he's A3 or higher when it's in that weakened state. Praetus is fine, but not going to be top tier, at least not now for this. Anora, if you have the bond skill, is very, very good, and you'll see A5 Anora is like all over the top 20. And Malrik can be pretty dang good for this because he can do, you'll switch him to AoE mode. He does some pretty good crowd control. The DPS is mediocre, but it's fine. But then he's buffing your best unit. So he's buffing your Silas, or he's buffing your Lady Alex, or buffing your Hex. He can be really good for this. Lyra is like okay, but she's really just for the boss. And it'd just be if you needed to lean into a certain comp. So that's going to be your DPSers. If we want to talk crowd control, Mari's right here. She's on some of the top teams. I tried hard to make her work, but I found going full DPS for my account ended up being better. But Mari's definitely a worthy option for a ton of accounts, especially if you don't have a super full roster. I think that basically covers that. There's no other major crowd control units. Greed is like okay, but Mari's better. She's bringing the freezes and the slow. That's just nicer. Finally, if we're talking about an inspiration hero, like a substitution for Beelzebub, there are only two options, right? Constance will not be possible because she's a floor unit. You can't deploy her. So it's going to come down to our Infernal Blast healers. We've got Diao Chan. She's like good for the fight, obviously, as is Dolores. But by bringing them, you're buffing only one unit. They'll only be able to fit one DPS in the range. This should only be done if you really have no other good DPS option. But like bringing that Calypso is more valuable than like just buffing the Silas for me, right? It's kind of close. And if your account, if I had like an AZ or Calypso, then yeah, maybe I just buff my Silas or my Hex. So you can make that evaluation for yourself. But it's a pretty big spot to use since they're only going to be buffing a singular unit. Thank you guys so much for watching. I've been Fastidious. Like I said, if you have any questions, let me know in the comment section below. I appreciate you taking the time to watch this video. Share with your mother, and I'll see you real soon. Bye.
Fastidious.